Ryan Garcia's recent performance against Rolando Romero has sparked intense debate, with fans, analysts, and even fellow boxers weighing in on what went wrong and what it means for his future. The fight, held in Times Square, was supposed to mark Garcia's triumphant return after a year-long layoff, a stepping stone toward a high-stakes rematch with Devin Haney. Instead, it became a flashpoint for criticism, reigniting questions about Garcia's mental toughness, reliance on performance-enhancing drugs, PEDs, and overall commitment to the sport. The narrative surrounding Garcia has shifted dramatically, from a young phenom with limitless potential to a fighter whose flaws, both in and out of the ring, are now under a microscope. What should happen next for Garcia? Does he deserve a rematch with Romero, a shot at Haney, or something else entirely? The answers depend on dissecting the fight, the context, and the broader arc of Garcia's career. The Times Square event was billed as a spectacle, initially advertised as a free, open-air show meant to draw massive crowds. Instead, it was fenced off, accessible primarily to VIPs and those watching from nearby buildings. Garcia himself described the atmosphere as lifeless, comparing it to a glorified sparring session. He claimed the setup threw him off, with distractions like hearing Shakur Stevenson and Richardson Hitchens talking ringside. In the ring, Garcia started strong, showcasing the blazing hand speed that has defined his career. But everything changed in the second round when Romero, a plus 700 underdog, landed a clean shot that dropped Garcia. From that moment, Garcia's energy shifted. He became hesitant, less active, and seemingly unwilling to engage in the kind of high-risk exchanges that once made him a fan favorite. Romero, often criticized for his lack of fundamentals, capitalized, controlling the fight with steady pressure and landing more punches. By the final bell, Garcia looked like a shadow of the fighter who had previously beaten Devin Haney, albeit under the cloud of a PED scandal. The loss to Romero was not just a defeat, it was a performance that felt disconnected, almost apathetic. Garcia's volume was down, his aggression absent, and long stretches of inactivity suggested he was more concerned with avoiding damage than winning. Post-fight, he offered a mix of humility and excuses. In the ring, he gave Romero credit, saying, "He fought a good fight, caught me early. No excuses. Congrats to him." But online and in the press conference, a different tone emerged. Garcia expressed devastation, admitting he didn't have it and felt off. He blamed the bizarre event setup, the lack of crowd energy, and the mental toll of his year-long break. "It felt like a fever dream," he said, describing a fight where he was stuck in a loop, unable to connect with the moment. While he acknowledged the layoff's impact, saying it was a victory just to make it to the ring, fans weren't buying it. To them, these explanations sounded like the latest in a string of justifications from a fighter who struggles to own his setbacks. The criticism of Garcia has been unrelenting, and much of it centers on a perceived lack of mental fortitude. Fans and analysts point to a pattern. When adversity strikes, Garcia seems to fade. They cite his 2023 loss to Gervonta "Tank" Davis, where a body shot knockout led to accusations that he chose to stay down rather than fight through the pain. The Romero fight reinforced this narrative. After the second-round knockdown, Garcia's demeanor changed. He didn't press forward or take risks to regain momentum. Instead, he fought cautiously, almost as if protecting himself from further embarrassment. Social media erupted with fans labeling him a quitter and mocking his performance with AI-generated videos and memes. One viral post had Garcia saying, "I transitioned from King Ryan to Queen Ryan. Without my secret juice, I'm just a TikTok boxer." The phrase, "surely a boxer, but not a fighter," began circulating, a jab not just at his skills but at his character in the ring. The PED controversy from his Haney fight looms large in these discussions. Garcia's victory over Haney in April 2024 was a career-defining moment, showcasing his speed, power, and ability to compete at the elite level. But the win was tainted when he tested positive for ostarine, a banned substance. The result was ruled a no contest, and Garcia faced widespread scrutiny. Fans noted a stark contrast between his chiseled physique and dominant performance against Haney and his less impressive showing against Romero, where he appeared leaner and less explosive. The narrative took hold that Garcia needs enhancements to compete at the highest level, and without them, he's a shell of himself. Comments like "Ryan Ostarine Garcia" and "Where was the juice?" flooded social media, with some fans even joking that they lost bets because Garcia quit doing PEDs. The Romero fight, in their eyes, confirmed that Garcia's success hinges on artificial advantages rather than raw talent or grit. Garcia has pushed back against the criticism, framing it as typical internet hate that surfaces whenever he loses. He pointed out that the negativity began after the Tank Davis fight and spikes when he's not winning. "Fans only talk when I'm down," he said, dismissing the backlash as noise from people who don't understand the sport's ups and downs. He also took aim at Romero, particularly after Romero's subsequent loss to Isaac "Pitbull" Cruz. Romero, who had previously avoided fighting Garcia despite WBC sanctions, was stopped in the 8th round by Cruz, a smaller fighter who moved up in weight to claim Romero's WBA super lightweight title. Garcia seized the opportunity to throw verbal jabs, questioning Romero's chin and conditioning. "The guy just can't take a punch," Garcia posted online. "His body can't handle shots anymore. Cruz wasn't even hitting that hard." He argued that Romero was never built for elite competition, propped up by Mayweather Promotions and ducking him when Garcia was at his peak. Garcia's comments about Romero reveal a deeper frustration. He believes Romero avoided him multiple times, starting when Garcia was coming off wins against fighters like Emmanuel Tego and Javier Fortuna. Even when the WBC ordered a fight, Garcia claims Romero backed out, choosing instead to face Cruz, a decision that backfired spectacularly. Boxing News 24 noted that Romero could have headlined a lucrative card with Garcia but passed for reasons that remain unclear. Garcia sees this as validation, proof that Romero was never on his level and only fought him when Garcia was vulnerable after a long layoff. Yet, this narrative hasn't shielded Garcia from criticism. Fans argue that if Romero was such an inferior opponent, Garcia's loss is even more damning. A win over Romero was supposed to be a formality, a way to reassert his relevance and set up the Haney rematch. Instead, it exposed vulnerabilities that even Garcia's detractors didn't fully expect. The Haney rematch was the prize Garcia was chasing, a chance to erase the no-contest ruling and reclaim his place among boxing's elite. Haney, who was ringside for the Romero fight, likely saw the bout as a preview of a lucrative payday. But Garcia's performance changed everything. He didn't just lose, he looked listless, disconnected, like a fighter with no real stake in the outcome. Several pros, including Conor Benn, openly dismissed Garcia's marketability after the fight. Benn, who thrives on name-driven matchups, called Garcia's performance terrible and retracted his interest in a potential fight. When a fighter like Benn, known for chasing big names, walks away, it's a sign that Garcia's stock has plummeted. Even Floyd Mayweather, a boxing icon, weighed in, criticizing Garcia for underestimating Romero's power and fighting carelessly with his chin high and hands down. "Speed don't mean nothing when you're eating punches like that," Mayweather said, describing the fight-ending blow as pure violence. His critique carried weight, implying that Garcia's mindset, his lack of respect for his opponent, was as much to blame as his technique. Garcia's mindset has been a point of contention for some time. After the Tank Davis loss, he spoke candidly about feeling betrayed by his team, unsupported, and emotionally drained. He even said Davis's camp showed him more kindness than his own. These weren't just post-fight emotions. They marked the beginning of a public unraveling. Garcia's relationship with his promoter, Oscar de la Hoya, has also deteriorated. De la Hoya publicly criticized Garcia for complaining about the rehydration clause in the Davis fight, telling him to man up. Garcia, in turn, has clashed with De La Hoya's plans, dismissing proposed fights like one against Manny Pacquiao and expressing exhaustion with the business side of boxing. "I'm tired of this," he said at one point, a sentiment that seems to bleed into his performances. His own promoter turning against him, combined with his reluctance to embrace the grind, paints a picture of a fighter who's mentally checked out. The Romero fight laid bare these cracks. Garcia's preparation, discipline, and hunger all seemed lacking. Romero himself noted Garcia's lack of activity, saying he wasn't active enough, and that the knockdown changed the fight's momentum. Analysts echoed this, pointing out that Garcia never pushed back after the early setback. Instead, he retreated, fighting to survive rather than to win. This wasn't the Garcia who thrilled fans with highlight reel knockouts and brash confidence. It was a fighter who appeared to be going through the motions, perhaps weighed down by the pressure of expectations, the PED scandal, and his own disillusionment with the sport. So, what should happen next for Garcia? A rematch with Romero seems unlikely and unnecessary. Romero's loss to Cruz diminished his standing, and Garcia's verbal attacks suggest he sees no value in running it back. A Haney rematch, once a blockbuster prospect, now feels out of reach. Haney has little incentive to face a diminished Garcia, especially after the PED controversy. Other top fighters, like Ben, have already distanced themselves, and Garcia's performance didn't inspire confidence that he's ready for elite competition. Some argue he should take a step back, face a lower-tier opponent to rebuild confidence, and address the mental and physical issues that plagued him against Romero. Others believe he needs a complete overhaul, new trainers, a new team, and a renewed commitment to the sport. Garcia's marketability remains a wild card. With over 10 million social media followers and a crossover appeal that transcends boxing, he's still a draw. The business of boxing loves a comeback story, and Garcia's youth, he's only 26, and charisma could keep him in the conversation. But fame and form are not the same. If Garcia is fighting for paychecks or to fulfill contracts, he's not just risking his reputation, he's risking his safety. The Romero fight showed a fighter who wasn't fully invested, and in a sport as unforgiving as boxing, that's a dangerous place to be. The deeper issue is whether Garcia still wants to fight. His comments about the Times Square event, the layoff, and the mental toll of the past year suggest a man wrestling with his own motivation. Fighters like Garcia, who rise quickly on talent and charisma, often struggle when the grind catches up. The PED scandal, the Tank Davis loss, the public feuds with his team, all of it has taken a toll. He's no longer the hungry kid chasing greatness. He's a star who seems burdened by the weight of his own brand. Even Romero, when asked about Garcia's future, offered little enthusiasm, saying he wasn't thinking about what's next. That dismissal, from an opponent who just beat him, speaks volumes. Garcia's peers are losing faith. Mayweather's critique was laced with disdain. De La Hoya's public rants signal a fractured partnership. Even Romero joked about Garcia, putting him to sleep during warm-ups. In boxing, the worst fate isn't being hated or feared, it's being dismissed. Garcia is teetering on that edge. He may still get chances, thanks to his name and following, but without addressing the cracks in his mental game, training, and team dynamics, those opportunities could accelerate his decline. For now, Garcia's path forward hinges on introspection. Does he still have the fire to compete at the highest level? Can he rebuild the discipline and toughness that once made him a prodigy? Or has the fame, the money, and the chaos of the past few years dulled his edge? The answers will determine whether Garcia can rewrite his story or if the Romero fight was the beginning of the end. Boxing fans, ever hungry for redemption arcs, will be watching. But they're also unforgiving, and Garcia's next move will need to be more than a TikTok video or a fiery tweet. It will need to be a statement in the ring.